Hey guys, hope all is well. It's episode 54 of the Rugby Recap. You have myself, Rich, as well as the Kiwi lads. First one, man, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Tim, and I'm going to give you an analogy that even Distracted Sports would be proud of. We're at the four-play round of Super Rugby at the moment. We're just about there. We're
Yep.
so close to the end of the road, but for now we've got a round where some sides will be knocked out, some sides will get themselves that little bit closer to the quarterfinals. But the crazy thing is, no team's out of the competition yet, and we've got 2 rounds to go. Up the Tars, they're in
Exactly.
12th, but they can bring it back the way that the competition sits.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, great analogy there by the one
Yeah,
and only Distracted Sports. But yeah, look, this whole season has been so up and down. That's crazy to think that every team still has a
great
chance.
pun.
Yeah, it still has. Yeah, Jeez. Still has an opportunity to actually get into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, we'll get obviously go straight into it. But before we do, make sure to obviously click the like button, guys. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think of just what we discuss. Let us know what your thoughts on all the pictures we kind of cover this within this episode. But of course, kicking off with Super Rugby. I mean, there's a lot of big clashes this week. Again, there's a lot up for grabs really because yes, the top four have already qualified. All four of them have actually qualified already for a home quarterfinal, so that's confirmed already. The Reds, I believe, have already qualified, but again, not coming under that bracket of. They'll still be in the playoff conversation, just not having a home final to the name. But for the rest of the teams, however, it's a big conversation, and this is like what we were kind of alluding to, where everything is still up for grabs. And of course, with the first one, it is Chiefs versus the likes of the Hurricanes, and it's one of those where this is one where it can impact kind of the positioning for the top four because, and again, this is like going off like a very very hypothetical scenario, but if the Chiefs were to beat the Hurricanes but by 5 points, and the Brumbies were to win, I guess the remaining games, their game this week against the Rebels by 5, which is probably probable, I think. Then there's a scenario in which the Brumbies could overtake them and kind of get that second place for the meantime, and then kind of going into the final round. We'll see what happens there, but it's interesting because I think both sides still have a lot to play for. But again, we know that the Hurricanes are not going into this game with the best side they could probably go with. But overall, what's your thoughts on this game?
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because this game easily could be a match later on in the competition as well. Whether that is going to be a semi final, the way that it currently sits, that seems like the more likely occurrence, or maybe even the final if everything works out that way. But these two sides, it will be a good test for them. The Hurricanes, you say they haven't got their best side, but they're still a pretty good side on paper. I don't think there's too many changes other than maybe in that front row that they may have liked to have a couple switches. The Chiefs, they've gone with a strong side as well. They know that this is not just a game that is a throwaway per se. You actually have to try and win this game because if you don't, you could lose your spot in that home at semi-final. So yeah, it should be a good one. Paul Williams, referee in charge of it. I think it's just going to be a good free-flowing game of rugby overall.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that this is actually in the context where this game does actually kind of have some importance because, of course, whoever does win this, they could get that home semifinal. So that is pretty important, I guess, going in the long term. But yeah, I just think it's one of those where when I look for Hurricanes, I mean, the one name I'm surprised hasn't been playing a lot recently, but I guess just maybe he's coming off an injury is Caleb Delaney because again he's had a great season I think for the Hurricanes, but recently he's kind of been he hasn't played I think like in the last two games, and then this one now, like he just has been I don't know, he's coming off the bench, which I'm a bit surprised about because he's been a key player for them throughout this year. So hopefully he gets some minutes off the bench at least. But yeah, look, the Hurricanes are an awesome side. They're definitely going to be definitely not one to be tested with. But again, when you look at that Chiefs back line, like honestly, that could be like an all black back line. Like when I look at it just over and over, I'm like, there's not really. I can make an argument for every single player there being an all black. So it's gonna be a fun match to watch. That's for sure. Because again, I'm trying to remember like when these two sides faced earlier on in the competition. When the Hurricanes kind of swept them away, if I'm not mistaken, they kind of dealt with them pretty early in the game. But yeah, it's one of those. I think Ratima, if I'm not mistaken, got a try. It was a pretty good try actually in that game. I think Perinara got. I think that's when Perinara. Maybe that was the first game, or maybe that's the game actually Borgo got injured. I'm not sure. You have to remind me
Yeah,
there.
what game was that? Because I know that it was to do with, of course, that referee, wasn't it? Unfortunately, just being in the wrong
Yeah.
place, and Roygaard tried to dodge him. But Hurricanes winning that one 36-23, the last time
Yeah.
that the two sides faced. Although, that was the home game for the Canes. This one now heading to
Yeah.
Waikato, where the Chiefs will have that home field advantage.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. But I guess in terms of my winner for this one, I don't know. I have a funny feeling the Chiefs can win this. I have a funny feeling they can win this one.
Ooh.
So I'm going to back the home team for this one. I'm not sure I'll look at the bonus point. I think that's asking too much, but I think they'll get a win over the Hurricanes in this. Yeah, well, I'm kind of backing them as the home team, so we'll see what happens there. But for yourself, then, who are you going for?
See, it's hard, isn't it? Because the Chiefs, for me, are the side that out of this one you'd think have the better chance. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the Hurricanes, they have caused a few away upsets over this year, although they have had a little bit of a tougher situation when it comes to their form over the last 5 weeks or so. They've still got a very good side out there on the field. So to be different, I'm going to back the Hurricanes here and say they'll get themselves the victory. And like you mentioned, the bonus points in Super Rugby are pretty hard to come by when you are facing top opposition. The fact that you need 3 or more tries than your opposition rather than just scoring the 4. I actually think both these sides have a very good chance of scoring 4 tries in this game. It's just the other side's probably going to score those 4 as well.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. But again, moving away then from that first game, moving on to the second one of the Friday, which is the Brumbies versus the Rebels. That'll be a pretty good matchup, I think, between both these sides. Again, not to just kind of say the obvious, but I think the Brumbies definitely, just looking at the lineup, definitely have gone with their best team through and through. Whereas the Rebels they've made some kind of switches in there. The key one, of course, being Connor Gordon not playing in that 10 spot. That's a big decision. I think just maybe they're kind of just choosing to rest him in this one. Maybe just
I think he suffered that knock last week, didn't he? Carter Gordon, I think maybe. That may be why he's been left out.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, not having him at 10 is going to be a big change, I think, for the Rebels. Definitely because he's been one of the main factors in that backline of being able to get it to function. It's the same situation as that first game as well, how both of these sides, they have different reasons for wanting to win this game. The Brumbies, like you mentioned, to try and get that little bit higher up in the top 4, and the Rebels, they're in a really tough place at the moment because they are in the top 8, but the games that they've got remaining, of course, this one up against the Brumbies away from home, and then they've got the Drua in Fiji. They need to get at least one win out of those 2 contests, if not probably a losing bonus point in both, just to really cement themselves in that top 8, because if they had won that game that they played last week, they would have been safe. But now they're on the chopping block, and there's still plenty of time left for other sides just outside of that top 8 to start creeping up. Could even see the Drua overtake them maybe in the future.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's a possibility. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's actually crazy you say that, because when you're going over the games they've had, the Rebels, like, in a weird way, like, just thinking back to that Chiefs game that was last week, like, I would actually say that was like the most favorable fixture in a weird sense, because it's one of those like where it's the last game at home, and they need, it's kind of it's arguably going to be the last game maybe within Super Rugby. Obviously, there's a big question mark on that, but it's one of those where there was a lot running that game. So I kind of wanted them to win that game, but they just missed out short on that one. Still play some good rugby, so they can kind of look back at that and kind of being, I guess, going into this game with some kind of good mentality at least. But yeah, like you said, those final 2 games are, it's not in their favor when you look at it. Going against the Brumbies as well as the Fiji and Drua next week, it's going to be tough. But again, for me, honestly, I think this is also another game where I think we're gonna see who. This could be a key game in terms of defining who plays the number 15 for the Wallabies, because this is, in my opinion, the matchup I think I want to see most in terms, because these are the 2 players. It's Tom Wright or Andrew Kellaway, I believe, who are going to be up for that conversation. Again, you can have Jock Campbell because he's had a good season for the Reds. Not going to discount him, but I just think these 2 are definitely the leading contenders out of the 3. I think that's like, it's a freeway. It's one of those where you can have 3 names there, but it's one of those where these 2 are probably the more standout players, and I think this one is going to be could be the decider. And again, Tom Wright, you could say, has been in better form, I'd say, recently, but you could say overall throughout the season, Kellaway has been I guess, more impactful for his side. So it's a bit of a toss and turn in that. But what's your stance on that? Like, if you had to select one of these two, just for what you've seen so far throughout this year, who would you pick at the number 15 spot?
See, the benefit you've got is whoever you don't pick at 15, you can probably have either off the bench or you could even have them play 14 as another option. So I think either way, you're probably going to see one of those guys at 15, one of them in the starting lineup somewhere else. I think that they'd possibly put Tom Wright at 15 because of his long boot that he offers. Like, anytime the Brumbies are inside of their 22, they just exit so well. Same with Noel Alessio. He's actually come a long way in his clearances. And it just is a little bit disheartening for a side when you get them into their 22 and then they kick it downfield and you have the line out inside of your own half. Like, you're not actually gaining too much from that territory battle. So I'd probably go Tom Wright for his boot and then have Callaway either at 11 or 14. Okay. Or coming off the bench for a bit of versatility at number 23.
No, I like it. I like that. I think that's probably what I would say as well, actually, because I think, like, on their day, I would say Callaway is probably, if you just say he was the better 14 out of between the two, I'd say Callaway is the better 14. But as a 15, you could make the argument, I'd say, is Wright is the 15 than Callaway. So I think that's like, I think it's kind of fair. I think with what you've selected there, but again, just off the basis of what we kind of discussed, I think the Brumbies are definitely the favorites going into this, so I will back them as the home team. But for yourself,
I'm doing the same. I think that they should have this one. GIO Stadium, they definitely want that to be their ground when they're playing in the quarters, in the semis, and who knows, maybe even the final if they can get up enough in the points, but. Yeah, they'll certainly want those home games.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But again, moving on towards the third game of the round, this is probably the game which could define a lot, actually, in terms of the playoffs, in terms of maybe one, I guess, putting that last kind of push going into the final round between the Moto Pacifica, of course, being Moto Pacifica and the Waratahs facing off between each other. And yeah, this is one where I don't know what
it's a battle for the wooden spoon, to just say it how it is.
You never know. Maybe the Crusaders go down. Maybe the Crusaders get the wooden spoon. You never know. Maybe Moto Pacifica beat the Crusaders on their own patch. You don't know anything. Anything can happen this season, by the way. So you never know. But no, good off this game. I just think it's one of those where both have had, I guess, like seasons which you want to forget. But at the same time, I think out of the two, Moto Pacifica have been a lot more impressive team compared to the Waratahs, because going off kind of like where the clubs are at the moment and just kind of the players they have, you kind of expect the Waratahs to be in a better position. But yeah, again, just they've had a lot of unlucky cases because, their propping department's just been all over the place, like losing like 7 props now, or even 8, I think. So it's crazy, and I think they lost 4 of the last 4 of the hookers as well. Like they're just kind of all over the place. And even it was just recently announced, I'm not sure you saw, that their head coach, Darren, I think it's Darren, if I'm not mistaken, Darren Coleman, has actually been he's going to be let go. So no matter what, these 2 final games will be his last, and then they'll find a new kind of coach after him. But it's kind of, I feel bad for him because he can't really do much in that scenario where you have so many stuff happening to you, like on the field, which is not really in your control. But at the same time, from the start of the season, I guess they could have done much more to kind of get those points earlier on. So I guess it kind of, you can say maybe it evens out. But what's your perspective on, I guess, the Waratahs, but just this game?
Well, I think it's still going to be a decent game, to be honest. Like, between these two sides, I think that there should be a bit of fight in them because, like, the season hasn't gone to plan. Like, Moana Pacifica, the way that they started their season, it did seem like, these boys are going to be in the top 8. And then from there, unfortunately, there were just a few games in the middle that they've got a minus 202 points differential, which is almost 100 more than any other side. And it is unfortunate that, to be honest, that points differential looking like that is from like 2 games that they lost by 50 points. That just boosted it all the way up. But they've still got a good side. Like, some of the guys that they've got out there on the field for this contest, one in particular who I feel like needs so much credit for the way that he's played this season, Lotu Anisi. Like, the kind of standout performance that he has had, I would not be surprised if that man gets an offer for an overseas club, whether it's France or Japan, heading into next year, if he hasn't locked in any contracts with Moana Pacifica. But Like the way that he has been able to play, and also I feel like some credit needs to go to Sione Havili Talatui, the way that he has led this side throughout some of the tough games that they have had. Like, they're still growing, and people who are saying they already want to see them out of the competition, nah. They're gonna be around for a little while, and look at already the improvement we've seen from Tonga and Samoa and the way that they play their rugby union now. I feel like it's helped these two sides a lot, and they just have to go out there playing in Auckland, which is their home crowd. I guess it still feels weird. They should have more games in Tonga and Samoa, but hopefully they can do that in the future. And I'm gonna, well, you know what? I'm gonna say they win it, Tim. We're gonna go bold here.
I like it. I like it.
Even though I just said the Tars at the start have to try and make the top 8, but
exactly
doing that.
And what I found funnier as well was like when you were mentioning around the Mod Pacifica and their results, they're like 50, they go up to 200 plus. But I remember a while ago there was a prediction I think you made where for that Reds Mod Pacifica game where you're like, we'll probably go to the 50 plus, and then going off. I think it was like the Brumbies who put like 60 on there. Then they go on to win that game. It's the Reds, which I think no one saw coming. But they're full of surprises, really, in Mod Pacifica. But they've had a good season, I guess. Like when you compare it to last, I guess they've had a much better season. But there's obviously a lot more work to be done. Looking forward, but going into this one, I think I want to sign with you, but at the same time, I don't know.
I'm going to make a comment, Tim. Referee in charge of this one, Nick Berry.
Oh, I think
that's almost changed my mind to the Waratahs straight off the bat.
Oh gosh, there you go.
To be honest, I feel like he's going to penalise Moana Pacifica out of the game.
Well, to be fair, Moana Pacifica have a really good scrum, actually. They have a decent scrum.
Yeah, but Nick Berry finds something to give something away for. If you look at him funny, he gives a penalty against you. So
that's true.
I'm actually thinking about changing my prediction and saying that Waratahs get it, even though Moana Pacifica play the better game of rugby. There we go.
So Nick Berry has fully influenced you there to change your decision. Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. Well, you know what? I will back Moana Pacifica then, just at that basis, just so that they have someone supporting them behind the scenes from the Rugby Recap here. So I will back them. And I think they actually will win this game. I think Moana Pacifica,
they should.
They should win it.
See how the whistle goes.
We'll see. I mean, again, the Waratahs played in some tough conditions at home last week against the Brumbies, so hopefully the conditions for this game isn't as bad as that one. And again, Moana Pacifica played. Who did they play? They were in Tonga, right? Was that the one that they played at the Highlanders, or was it
last week?
Was that the week before? Yeah.
Yeah, the week before that one was. Last week they played the Hurricanes, and they had a close game, 32 points to 24.
It was actually a respectable game for them, I thought. So it's not that bad of a result actually they had. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this one, going on in this one. But Moana Pacifica, Waratahs. So we'll see what happens there. But again, moving on towards the next one, which is again the big one of the week, which is Crusaders versus the Blues. And there's not much more to say in this. This is like the big all-time derby of Super Rugby. Let's just say it like that. Maybe you guys argue against me on that. Maybe there's a derby you want to say that's better, but I just think this one has so much bad blood against these two sides that I just think it's one of those where anything can happen. But not really anything. It normally goes towards the Crusaders, but the Blues can definitely spice that up here and kind of get the double over the Crusaders, I think, for the first time in a very long time. So I'm looking forward to it. I've purposely made sure to not do a live stream on this game for this week because I just want to watch it just I don't have to kind of just go and commentate because I won't be in the right frame of mind. I think just watching this game, so I just have to watch it entirely. But what's your thoughts on this? Because I know obviously you'll be doing a live stream on this one.
Well, I can see the ecstaticness coming off your face, Tim, with the fact that you now know that this game is a lot closer than it used to be. There were many times that the Crusaders beat the Blues, and you've watched all those. And now you're sitting there, big smile on your dial because you think your team's going to win it. But I'm going to be annoying and say the Crusaders beat the Blues in this game.
You're going straight to the prediction.
Just for fun, you know?
Wow.
I mean, we can sit here and talk about how good the Blues have been, but that would almost be like in the intro. That would be considered foreplay because that kind of stuff, I'm sure, is making you very excited for the way that this season has gone so far. But what did you tell me before the podcast started, Tim? Who's going to knock the Blues out of the comp?
No, that's just a hypothetical scenario. That's all you guys need to know. But no, if there is a team to do and crush the Blues, it is definitely the Crusaders. But no, it's gonna be one of those games where I'm looking forward to just to watch because it's one of those, there's a lot on my mind. Just to kind of recap, if you guys don't know, Crusaders obviously had not having the best season, 2-10 now their record, and this is kind of the game where they have to win it. It's a do or die scenario for them, because if they don't win this one, then I think from a numbers standpoint, they can't go to the playoffs, depending on, I guess, how the other results go. But it's very likely that if they don't win this game, then they can't kind of qualify for the playoffs. So yeah, they have to win this game. It's more of an important win for them really than the Blues. Again, the Blues need to win this because they need to maintain obviously that number one position. But when you're looking at both teams, who needs it more, you would definitely sway towards the Crusaders. So yeah, it's a much more important game for them. And when you look at their lineup, I mean, they've made a few changes in there. Like, I know that I see that Ethan Blackadder is back in, number that 7 spot. So that's a big one for them, because I know that he was at Kello, if I'm not mistaken, has been kind of holding that 7 spot during his kind of layover. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because the Blues have made some substitutions of their own, changes. Good one to see is Perifetta back on the field at the 15 spots. That's I don't know if that's the right. I think it's the right call, probably, because he probably has the best experience in that 15. But at the same time, Forbes has been pretty good for the Blues, so I'm surprised they've made the decision to kind of put him on the bench for this. I would have honestly just gone for Forbes. I think he's been really good this year for the Blues. But
the question is, are they making the same mistake they made with Zahn Sullivan? Because they didn't pick Forbes then, and he got injured when he had an injury. So is this going to be the case with Perifetta as well? Should they have just gone with Forbes, have Perifetta off the bench for his 10 and 15 cover that he offers? Like, that seems like the logical choice, doesn't it? But they didn't.
Did he come off the bench for the last game? I forget. Or was he just not
for Cole Forbes in that one that Sullivan got injured, or the one last week?
No, literally the last game against the Highlanders.
Last game, I believe he started.
Perifetta?
No, but Cole Forbes.
Yeah. But I'm saying, did Perifetta come off the bench there?
No, I don't think so. He was supposed to, but then there was some sort of thing that they said he wasn't quite up to 100%.
That's what it was. Yeah. It was the last.
And then they're like, you know what? We'll chuck him in the starting lineup this week. He'll be fine.
That's what, I just didn't understand it. Like, it was like there's a lot of players actually out for last week. It was like Bryce Heem, like it was Marcel Renetta, and I think Perifetta. He was like last minute switches in terms of that lineup. So yeah, look, I mean, again, if you're going to put him into a game scenario where he needs to kind of be right in kind of the frame, I guess, for what you're going to have to do when it comes to the playoffs, then there's no better game really than this, playing down in Christchurch against the Crusaders. So I'm looking forward to it. It's one of those where I actually don't know how it's going to go, because this game has normally been very, not high scoring. Like, the only high scoring I can remember really is when, in terms of like both sides, was when the Blues won, like, I think it was like 32-29. It was like a matter of like a few points into it. So, but normally, like, it just, besides that, it's just gone like really in the Crusaders' way in terms of like scoring a number of points, and the Blues may just get like one try or not even get any points on the board. So it's I don't know how this is going to play out, but you are going with the Crusaders, for what you've said. So I'm intrigued to know why you think the Crusaders will. Okay, what do you think? Why do you think they're going to kind of go into this game with I guess a different mentality to what we saw last week against the Brumbies? Because again, they were a bit hard done by, I'd say, in that game, because the whole, what was it, Quinton Strange kind of knocking in out, giving the penalty try, and that kind of cost them going into the golden point scenario. So they're definitely wanting to get some. Yeah, they're kind of hoping to get some win here. So just what's your take on the Crusaders then?
Well, I think that if they can have the same aggressive approach as their coach has in press conferences, then I think this Crusaders side.
I wasn't going to mention this, but
what happened, Tim? What happened in the journalist interview?
You know what's really weird is that I saw this on Twitter, and it was the whole Crusaders like announcement, like team announcement. I'm like, why are they giving it? The team's already been announced. I was like, what? Why are they? There's a whole logo. It's like a team announcement. I'm like, okay, I'll click onto the link. There's a whole thing about sorry, Rob Petty is sorry for for what he said against the reporter. They've shook hands, and the Crusaders organization doesn't go anything. I was like, what happened? And then I go over, I'm going over like, so I'm like, okay, something happened, right? Again, you can be the one if you want to talk about it. I'm kind of choosing
Should
to
I
stay
say
away
the
from.
word? No.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't go do that far, but it's one of those where let's just say he was very angry at a Crusader, at a reporter, just for questioning if he will stay at the Crusaders going forward. But and kind of yeah, just well, I mean, Rob Petty definitely had a bad reaction to it. Let's just say, kind of like what you expect of what you would think Eddie Jones would do, but Eddie Jones normally kind of just doesn't use anymore. He's of, I guess, the caliber of what he used there. But no, but yeah, look, it's one of those where. So is that the reason why you think the Crusaders will win? It's like, what is that the only reason why you're?
No, I feel like, once again, I don't want to be that one week that I don't say the Crusaders are going to win. They actually do. And
Okay,
it's coming,
yeah,
isn't it? At some stage soon,
yeah,
they've got
yeah,
to look like a decent side. And like last week, they looked all right. They were
yeah.
pretty
That's good.
close to getting themselves that win. It was just that little brain fade near the end of the game.
Yeah,
Just ended up costing them. But they're still a pretty strong side. On paper, like they've got some of the most informed players in certain positions. Like Sever Reese has been phenomenal throughout this season. It's just a shame he's had no one really with him on that journey. Cullen Grace, I think he's been playing some fantastic
yeah,
rugby
solid,
as
solid.
of late as well. And, Havili, I don't know how that man keeps getting in the starting
I,
lineup.
I just, yeah. I mean, I have a bold take on him, by the way, but I don't think he should make the All Blacks. I
That's
actually
not a
don't think.
bold take. That's just logic
No,
at this
no,
point.
no, 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 no. But trust me, you're gonna have people like maybe in the comments like saying like, "What are you on about?" Like he's gonna definitely get selected for the All Blacks. And to be honest, I think he might actually get selected because Razor loves Havili. Like it's a known fact that he loves Havili, and I think there's so many better centers you've been. I mean, he's trying Havili at a 10 position, but like that's not even working. I mean, he's done what, one good pass to Severis in the Highlanders game, and wow. Okay, you know what? Just that you're in the. He's going to call him up for the All Blacks. I hope that's not the strategy he has because I don't think he's been really good at 10. I mean, what was it? Harry Wilson even blocked his kick in the
Mm.
in that and scored a try from it. I just don't think
I
Havili is
think
going to
David
be the
Havili has
answer.
assisted the opposition more for scoring tries than his own team throughout this
Exactly.
season.
That's kind
And
of the point I'm getting.
the fact that he is normally selected because of the fact that he's got that long boot on him and he can kick them from far out if they need it. Che Fiaki proved that he can do that last week
I would choose
in
him.
that one.
I would choose him over Havili beginning of the All Blacks. That's
Mm.
I don't think that's a harsh thing. I mean, Chafinaki's had a good season, I'd say, for the Crusaders. He actually has been one of their standouts, actually. But yeah, gosh, I swear, if Havili gets chosen for the All Blacks, I just that's a bit of I don't know. It's a very risky move, I'll say, just because it's one of those like,
Mm.
where I don't see how he starts. Like I don't see an area where he actually starts because he's not going to go for the 12 spot for Jody Barrett. They're not going to do it in the 10 spot. 13, I guess, is up for debate, but I don't really see Havili as a 13, and they're not going
No.
to choose him at 15. So it's one of those like, where I don't see where a spot you can kind of play him. But hey, Razor can obviously come up with something and kind of, I guess, um, get the magic working. So, well, I don't know. Maybe something does happen later down the line. But yeah, again, we'll move away from this game. I guess I'm also going for the Blues no matter what. You're going for the Crusaders, so it'll be interesting to see what happens from that perspective. But again, the next game, of course, being Reds versus the Force. This is probably the more important one, I'd say, out of the Australian fixtures we have this week, just because the Reds, of course, they kind of wanted to just confirm, I think, kind of their status in that fifth position because there's a very off chance, but Rebels are sitting in sixth at the moment, and there's a very slight chance where they could take over them if they were to win the last two games. But it's one of those where the Reds, they can kind of seal this win here against the Force, then they're in a very good position for that fifth spot. And then depending on what happens with that top four, they'll either face most likely, I'd say, the Chiefs or the Brumbies. But it's it's going to be fascinating to see what happens here because I think the Western Force are in a very good run of form here, and I think they're going to push the Reds' form, the Red kind of for their money here. So, what's your take on this one? Because I think both sides are going into this one. I say with they won both their last games, so they're both in good form, I guess. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough call.
Well, the thing is, if the Force win this game, they're in the top eight.
Yep.
Because, and maybe not even just for like the 24 hours or less than 24 hours before the next game, which is Highlanders versus Fiji and Drua, 7 versus 8. But there is a chance that the Western Force can go from bottom of the bunch for a majority of the season to then finding themselves in the top 8 with 1 round to go.
I hope they do
Now,
it. I hope they do it.
It would be quite the comeback, and I feel like, no one really would have seen it coming because a lot of people felt like they were down and out from the start, and they've been a little bit of an underrated side. They've had so many tough games, and now that they're starting to play other Australian sides, they're actually starting to find their feet a little bit more. But this one here up against the Reds, the Reds will be determined to try and push towards that, they can't really go anywhere, but they can stop anyone from catching them is probably the better way of looking at it. They've almost secured themselves a chance of, we've got to remember, right, if they manage to win their quarterfinal, and we see, I guess it would have to be 3 of the top 4 sides getting knocked out, including the game that they played, they would actually then have a home semi-final for the Reds.
Really?
They would, because they're fifth qualifier, so...
Oh, you're saying they're going to go all the way up to 5th place? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that they will be playing 4th in the quarterfinals. So then if they beat them, then if we see 2 of the other 3 top sides knocked out, you go with the 2 top qualifiers. So it's a long shot, but there's still the possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a very long shot scenario, but in that scenario, where would you say they would finish then? In terms of that kind of table?
Well, I don't think they're making it through their quarterfinal, but
I guess
that makes it easier, doesn't it?
You never know. But yeah, this wasn't forced side. I think they actually have a good chance, I think, in winning this game. Like I said, again, they definitely have the form on their side going off the last 2 they've played. I'm actually going to back the Force. It's one of those ones where I'm just kind of hoping they have a surge in these last 2 games. But again, unfortunately, it's not really in their hands, I'd say, in terms of getting into this playoff spot, because it kind of depends on what happens with the Highlanders and the Highlanders Fiji game that we're going to discuss right after this, because that could also impact kind of how this game plays out. Because if the Force do win, then it's one of those where Fiji and Drua really have to win that next game, because if not, then it's going to get very interesting going to that final round. But of course, if they do lose this game, then it's they're going to be put in a very tough position to kind of actually get into the playoffs in my thinking. But I will bet them. I will bet the Western Force for this one. What kind of what way are you kind of going for this game?
I'm going to say the Reds, just because Suncorp Stadium, home ground advantage. And they've still got a very good side on the field. Tim Ryan in the starting lineup, he's become a bit of a superstar for the Reds.
Yard dog,
We'll see how he goes in his own yard. For this one being in Queensland. He actually plays a lot better at Suncorp than he does anywhere else it does seem as well. So
he played pretty well at Christchurch.
That is true. Well, actually up against the Blues as well. Was that at Suncorp or was
that?
That
was at Suncorp, yeah. That was Suncorp. That was the debut of Tim Ryan, essentially, of what we know him now. Yeah. But
Star was born, and that's not just because he's 19? Yeah. Hardly out of high school.
Yeah, good movie that, by the way. Good movie.
Haven't seen it.
No, I've never seen my life, but
you've never seen it either.
No. I know there's a good song in it. I can't even
go. Sing it for the people, Tom.
Narrow or it's something I can't remember.
Marrow. Let's sing about bone marrow and put it in a show.
Marrow. But gosh, what I'm trying to think. Yeah, I can't even think of it now. But besides the point, I'm going Western Force, going the Reds. But it's going to be good. It's going to be a high scoring game, I think, in this one. I'm saying a high scoring game for this. But of course, as we alluded, the final game of the round is the Highlanders versus Fiji and Drua. This is one where, again, another playoff scenario. This is going to kind of determine what happens in that kind of 6, 7, 8 position, because the Highlanders, to be fair to them, have kind of they're in a very comfortable position now, following that kind of win they had against the Crusaders earlier on. And I think they're in a point where they just need to they need to do better than what they did against the Blues, in all honesty, because in that first half against the Blues, I was really impressed by them. Really impressed with the way they played. I did not expect them to play that good in that first half. But when it went to the second, they were just they were nowhere to be seen. So I'm hoping that the Highlanders don't have that kind of same game, because when you're against the Fijian Drua, you cannot you can't go you can't like kind of just not focus because they're gonna definitely take advantage of that. It's gonna be a good game. I mean, in Dunedin, the form of the Highlanders at home has been all right this season. I think so. I just don't know. The Fijian Drua they just haven't won a game away. So it's like I think you just have to say the Highlanders in this one, but it's just I have a funny feeling the Fiji Drua could do something in this game. I don't know why. I just have a funny feeling this could be the one. They're just going to kill the chance of the Western Force something in this one. Oh, I just don't know. I mean, what's your take on this? Because I'm really 50-50.
Well, it's in Dunedin, and it's very cold down there at the moment.
Indeed.
And that could influence a little bit. Of course, the Fijian Drua, anytime they've had a home game, that's normally 25, 30 degree temperatures.
Yeah.
They're probably going to be dealing with 2.5 to 3 degrees down in Dunedin for this contest. So it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment.
Yeah.
Their side's in some pretty decent form, though, in terms of being able to pull off those wins once again at home. I want to see them do well away from home. I just don't know whether this is going to be the game that they do it. Sam Gilbert back in the starting lineup for the Highlanders, which I think will be a decent choice overall. Billy Harmon is going to be back as well.
Yeah.
Playing 8, which is a little bit interesting. I think that's based off the form of Sean Whiffy as well as Ollie Hay. But, I still think that the Highlanders should be able to win it. I think that they'll get the job done, but only narrowly. But then at the same time, the cold might be something that causes a little bit more of a one-sided game.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And also, I mean, when you're going conditions-wise, of course, Fijian Drua won't be, I guess, used to kind of like the the very cold conditions. That's for sure. Because when you're playing in Fiji, I mean, that's the hottest game of the year, really. So it's look, it's going to come down to the wire, I think, for these two sides. I mean, like I said beforehand, both these sides are playing for something, kind of Highlanders confirming their playoff spot, whereas the Fijian Drua really need to win this game. To be fair, actually, if they win this game, they are going to kind of seal their playoff spot, in my opinion. So it's but I need you to make the prediction first because I'm still stuck here. I'm still stuck on this one. I don't know which way I'm going to go here.
Well, I've gone the Highlanders.
You've got the Highlanders. Okay.
Are you going to go different or are you going to go the same?
I'm going to go with what I think may happen. So I'm going to say the Fijian Drua. It's not what I want to happen, but it's a funny feeling where I don't know. I think they could do it and get their first away win just before literally the last chance to do it. So we'll see if they can do it here or not. But gosh, that's tough. But anyway, we'll move away then from those kind of the Super B round for this one. And again, just to kind of touch on one kind of topic that's linking towards Super B, but it's pretty fascinating to talk about because I don't think we ever thought this would actually be a possibility. But with Beauden Barrett, of course, coming back from Japan, done with his sabbatical with Tota Verabits, he is now training with the Blues. And the Blues have reportedly put on their Twitter that he is now training with the Blues. He is living, of course, in Auckland, contracted up to 2025. And they are looking into seeking clarification around the application process for including him for the Blues for the rest of the season. So I'm not sure what to think about this because yes, it obviously is very beneficial from a Blues perspective, and I'll happily take that. But it's one of those where I don't know if it's the right move from a Super B standpoint, but I understand the reasons for it from a All Black standpoint. So because again, you want to see him in these kind of high pressure scenarios. So what better time to do it now when it's kind of the playoffs incoming? So I can understand it from an international standpoint, but is it fair from a Super B standpoint? I'm not sure. But what's your take on this for what's been kind of discussed?
Well, you know who's probably going to miss out? Cole Forbes. He'll probably be the man that's stepped aside so that they can put him at 15, Bodie. See how he does. It's weird timing, isn't it? Like, if there was an injury, I'd say probably that's fine. Like, at the end of the day, you're trying to bring in a guy as a replacement. We've seen it done before with guys coming in from overseas clubs. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could get the technicality of it
Yeah.
being
But
not
I
as
wouldn't make that
bad.
case though. Like, that's the thing. Like, I
Mm.
can make that case, but I'm not even. I'm not really. Like, I'm not believing that as well. So it's. I don't know.
It does make you wonder what will happen if it is allowed in terms of future years of who's going to be coming back. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier on about Artie Savia, in terms of could he
Yeah.
come back if he really wanted to, and
Yeah.
all the switches like that. But it'll be interesting because there's also the chance that he comes back, and because he's been playing so much different rugby in Japan, it may actually hurt the Blues more than it benefits them. Like there's the
Yeah.
chance that because he's been in a different type of comp and different kind of tactics there. You'd
Yeah.
assume with him training with the Blues again, he'll be getting that rhythm back. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. I know that a lot of people eagerly watching it to see whether or not Bodie's going to be back for the Blues.
Yeah.
But I do find it interesting that you're not overly enthralled by it with the fact that Bowden
No,
Barrett's coming back.
I was
Does
a
it
bit
give
like
you a weird feeling?
it does. Like honestly, I don't feel like it's right. Like that's kind of the way
Mm,
I'm going about this because I just like, and also like this isn't this has just been reported that it's Bowden Barrett, but as you mentioned, there's also Otto Sevilla who's coming back, and I feel that's probably the worst scenario. Actually, that's even more of a worse scenario actually when I think about it than the Bowden one because Sevilla, of course, can play 7 or 8, and I think this Peter Laka has been incredible this year at the 7th spot. And for number 8, they've had Brandon Uese, who's been incredible as well. So, like, to take one of them two out to put RSV in, I just felt that would be so hard. They'd be so hard done by for the season they've had. So, I just don't know. That's why, like, when I look at this Bowden scenario, I can understand it more. Like, if you're comparing the two, what would be the worst scenario for the players involved? I guess it's definitely, I guess, worse for the Hurricanes. But yeah, just I don't know. I'm not sure this is again, this hasn't been confirmed, by the way, that if the application's been accepted or not. But they are obviously seeking approval from Super Rugby to see if it's actually allowed or not. But yeah, I'm probably not in favor of this. But I can understand the reasons, like I said, from an international standpoint, why Razor would like to see Bowden within kind of a high pressure scenario before kind of like choosing the players he wants. But I think anyway, I think he was going to go with Bowden anyway. So I don't know really why. I don't know. There's even more risk of now him being injured as well if you do this. So it just kind of goes against that as well. So I just don't know. I'm kind of a mixed bag on this, but I think we're both kind of in agreement where it's just it doesn't feel right, but you can understand the reasons for it. I guess.
yeah,
If it was
it's a slight inconvenience for the ones who are
Yeah.
at the club, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like if there is those injury side of things, because it is a position that the Blues have suffered quite a few injuries throughout the season
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
Sullivan, as well as now
Perfect.
you've got Peter Feta only just coming back, and
Yeah.
so hopefully it doesn't stir the pot too much in Super Rugby.
No,
We
I
don't
agree.
need too much pot stirring, do we?
No, not at all. Not at all. I thought there was another quote there from Distracted, but but anyway, again, we'll move on to the final kind of topic that we want to discuss here, guys, for the episodes. Of course, being the Champions Cup as well as the Challenger Cup. Of course, both games being played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The first, of course, we'll discuss is the Challenger Cup, being Sharks versus Gloucester, and yeah, this is one where look, this may be completely wrong because I've only seen highlights of all their games. I don't watch like the full games like yourself, but when I saw that 90-0 against them, like again, obviously that's not their actual team, is it like their second team, but like to actually field a team for that game and they lose 90-0, it just puts so much like negativity in my thoughts for this game against the Sharks. Because before then, I'd actually say, well, you know what, I may actually go with Gloucester in this game, but I just think because of that, I'm kind of now leaning towards the Sharks. For I mean, again, they had a good semifinal win against Claremont as well. So it's one of those where they kind of came back into that game. And what's the you have to remind me that I can't pronounce his name yet. The fly half. He's been very good for the Sharks rep this year.
So
the Sharks fly half. I can't believe what his name.
I keep thinking Grant Williams, but it's not Grant Williams because you can easily say his name.
Exactly. You know who I'm on about, at least. You know who I'm on about, but the number 10.
It's going to annoy me now. I'm going to have to look. So you're not talking about Masuku in the number 10 jersey, are you?
No, but that is Masuku. Is that Masuku?
Are you talking about the fly half or the scrum half?
No, the fly half.
Fly half, yeah, Masuku.
Masuku, that's it. Yeah,
Sia Masuku.
Masaya Masuku, that's it. But yeah, he's been brilliant for the Sharks this year. And again, he's actually, I'm not going to say he'll get it, but he's in the conversation actually for a Springbok call-up, just for what he's done so far for the Sharks within the Challenger Cup. Let's just make that clear. Throughout the URC, they haven't had the best of seasons, the Sharks. But from the Challenger Cup perspective, he's been pretty clutch for them. So I think going into this game, the Sharks are going in with some good form. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens. But yeah, what's your take on this game in terms of who you think may get the better of this one?
Well, it is a weird one for Gloucester, isn't it? Because their game after that 90-0, they won 54 points to 14.
Exactly.
So it's such a roller coaster that they're on at the moment of ups and downs.
Yeah.
But it's similar to most sides. I mean, we saw Leinster field a weaker side when they went to South Africa and they lost those games. But it's just one of those ones that was such a tight window of opportunity to play these games. You are going to find yourselves having to rest certain players, and people don't like it when the top side isn't sent to play their side. But at the end of the day, like, you still got to give them some sort of break. I think that Leinster, you know, they've got one thing in mind at the moment, and that is with the fact that they've beaten La Rochelle, they can finally take out a Champions Cup. The Sharks, they've made it further than any side has in the Challenge Cup from South Africa. Gloucester, they're a side that have had their ups and downs, 90-0 being one of the biggest downs, but they want to get themselves the victory here in this Challenge Cup final. So there's a lot on the line, and I think with the fact that it's on neutral ground, but it's still slightly home advantage for Gloucester, you know, I'm still going to say it though. I think that Masuku's kicking. If he can get 8 from 8 like he did up against Clermont, I think that the Sharks can stay close in it, and I think that they'll be really hard to beat in this game. Now, that's not to say this game won't have a 20-point advantage to Gloucester at the end of it, because we don't really know how the Sharks are going to travel. We've got to remember they played a game in South Africa last week, whereas Gloucester had a game in England, so a lot less travel involved for one of these two sides. It's also a Friday night game over in England, so that's a pretty quick turnaround for the Sharks. I believe like a 5-day transition from getting to South Africa, getting used to the English conditions. Everything's against them, but I'm going to back them to get themselves the win here.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's kind of the direction I'm also going in. I think the Sharks will be. If you just say who's going to win, just a gut. I have a gut instinct that they're going to win this one. So I will also bet the Sharks within that final. But of course, for the other final, for the Champions Cup one, this is where it's a tough call. This Toulouse and Leinster. I mean, these two have been definitely the I guess the expected ones. Kind of end up in this scenario, at least going to the finals. But yeah, I actually don't even know what way I'm thinking here at the moment, because I think both sides have had good seasons. I don't know. I mean, I'll go to you first. I think I am leaning towards one team, but I will let you go first. Just maybe you'll convince me to go to the other. We'll see. We'll see.
Do I get to know what team that is first off?
I'm thinking more Toulouse. That's kind of the way I'm thinking at the moment, but I don't know. Maybe you could convince me that Leinster is the way to go here. But I think maybe just looking at your reaction immediately, I think you're heading maybe towards Toulouse, maybe. So I don't know if there's much convincing. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, both of these sides are very good at playing at home. And I think that the URC has proven that, with the exception of a couple games in South Africa, Leinster have been very strong away from home as well. Now, if we look at the way that these two sides sit, we're going to do it just in real time as well. At the moment, Leinster, they are sitting in third. They've had 12 wins, 5 losses of their 17 games. Then, if we go to the top 14 for Toulouse, the way that they are currently sitting, of course, they've played a few more games. They are sitting 24 games played, 16 wins, 8 losses. So, a majority of those losses have been away from home for Toulouse. Leinster, they have lost 5. 2 of those games were when they were playing in South Africa without their strongest side, without Irish internationals. We've also got to remember a bit of the URC happened just after the Six Nations. That is at a time where Leinster, I believe, also picked up 1 or 2 of their other losses. Yeah. With the exception of those games, there aren't many losses away from home on Leinster's record. Now, Toulouse, though, they have got a little bit of an X factor in Antoine Dupont as their number 9. Now, he has been phenomenal ever since returning from the Sevens. But the question is, can he carry that side up against Jameson Gibson Park, who some are regarding as one of the top two scrum halves in World Rugby today? The conversation is between those two. So the question is, who's going to be number one?
I don't know. It's actually fascinating that the conversation has actually gone out, and the first was actually that Jameson Gibson Park is now in the conversation as the world's best scrum half. To be fair, I've never really seen it in that kind of that high. I never thought he would actually be in this spot, but to be fair, when you look at everything he's done this season, it's fair to actually bring that argument up. I'd say so. I can understand it, but I don't know. I also just look at the history in terms of this final as well. Like, Toulouse have never lost a final when it comes to the Champions Cup. So I'm gonna stick with Toulouse. I just think I just think Dupont and Tamac and just everyone that I mean, when you look at my play by player here, it's just so strong. It's so. But then you have Leinster. It looks incredible. Like, even like Hugh Keane, by the way, he just announced he's actually gonna partake in the sevens. Actually, I see. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, like, yeah, I'm gonna stick with Toulouse. I just have a funny feeling they could just do it. Something similar to what La Rochelle did. Like, when they're the team which I think more people would cheering for Leinster, but I think Toulouse can just come in there and just disrupt the party. So that's kind of the direction I'm heading into. But for yourself, then, which way are you thinking?
Well, I don't think I could have gone on the spiel that I went on without backing Leinster now, because I did say that they've got quite a few away wins, and this one's going to be a good game, though. I do hope that it has got a full 80-minute performance in it. I know that Northampton versus Leinster was more of a second half game than anything. Leinster started well, but then it kind of fizzled out after that first 20 or so minutes, and then we got back into it afterwards. Toulouse, they had a real tough game up against the Harlequins. If it wasn't for a little slap on the back of the head from Joe Marler, we could have seen that game go a little bit deeper into the end of the contest, which, of course, the Harlequins are known as a side that are normally able to fight back in the later stages. So, I think it's going to be a good game, and I'm going to say that Leinster win it. Okay. But then the question does remain, can they also win the URC? Because it is often the case where they have got their eyes firmly set on the Champions Cup or firmly set on the URC, that the other competition, they don't get it. And then the problem is, when they don't win that competition, they normally lose the next one. We've got to remember, the last 2 years of the URC, Leinster have not been in the final. Champions Cup, the last 3 times, they've been knocked out by La Rochelle. So,
that's crazy.
You know, it's their year to win it. We'll go with that anyway.
To be fair, they dealt with that kryptonite in the earlier on, but yeah, fair enough. That's a good assessment of it. But I guess before we go, there is actually one I just thought of that it is actually come out on Twitter. I'm not sure if you've seen this already, but Damian Williams is actually been reportedly injured, and he's not going to be available for the July internationals as well as the whole rugby championship. So he'll only be available back until the Autumn Nations. So I just want to get your take on, I guess, who do you think would be best suited to fill that 15 role? Because, I mean, you can obviously switch around a few players if you want to put Curly Lorenzo there, if you put Chess and Kobe if you wanted to, or you can bring a new player in to fill that role. Because I'm not sure about you, but I don't think really LaRue will be considered still. He could be still considered. He's done pretty well. I mean, but I just don't know if, like, going forward, are you gonna have Willie LaRue at the next World Cup? I just don't know. Like, I guess in the short term you can maybe choose him still, but what would be your take then?
I think it's going to be a little bit similar to the Cam Roygaard scenario, how Roygaard injured, Perenata comes in. So I think that it might be the case of, with the injury of Willems, that may have extended Willie LaRue's time in the Springbok jersey just that little bit longer.
Fair enough.
There's some good options around. Upper Lilifasi, I think, he's been all right, but I don't know whether or not he's quite been at the level that they want him to be at. I know that Juan Horn for the Lions has been going pretty well in terms of, like, there's still a lot of other great players that they could actually consider from the South African sides. do you look at someone who's overseas? You've got that kind of side of
Yeah.
things out. Maybe you could bring in a player. But then Rassi does like his homegrown talent, doesn't he? He wants the guys in South Africa. Just look at the situation with the captaincy. So
Yeah.
I would say that maybe it gives the opportunity to someone else, someone who I think has been underrated for quite a long time, probably Clayton Blomekis. But the problem is they've given him that little game time that he's probably out of form now because he just doesn't get that same opportunity. And he was one of the main reasons the Stormers did so well, and I believe it was last year's URC, was because of the way he was able to hold it down at the back. And any time that back three fired, with him, Hudson-Berg, Lillian, Zuss, whoever they went with out on those wings, Sergio Peterson, that was always going to be a dangerous time running the ball back. But yeah, I think Vili Leroux, as much stick as he gets, I know you love him, but as much stick as he gets, I feel like he's still the right option. Yeah, you love a bit of Vili, don't you?
No, I trust me. I can take Willie LaRue easily. The other one, I'm not sure if you mentioned him or not, but there's also Ward Glatt as well. So maybe he's in the conversation because again, he's been a previous Spock, so maybe Rassi may consider him once again. But we'll see what happens there. And even I saw Jasper Wiese maybe out now. He's been suspended now for 6 games, so he's actually not going to be available for the Wales game, the Portugal game, and all 3 of the Ireland tests. So I don't even know now who the Boks going to select in the number 8 spot. That's a bit of a question now, but I don't know. We'll discuss it maybe in another. Yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll discuss that in another video. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Like I said, make sure to click the like button, guys. We'll greatly appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Check out our respective channels, and see you guys next time.